Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris.
What up? This is Kyle Massey. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio, the revolution.
All right, we're back. This is Fade to Black. Today is Friday, December 27, 2013. It is just 2 days after Christmas. I hope everybody had a great holiday so far. We are live from the JP Motorsports Studios right here in Burbank, California. For KJC on the Dark Matter Radio Network, I am your host, Jimmy Church, and I do want to thank Robert Salas for coming in. His time is precious, and just let me say, he doesn't do that, what we just did, often, if ever. And it was a coup d'etat to get him in here, and I really appreciate his time. It's a fantastic story. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Everything is Fade to Black, Fade to Black, Fade to Black. Head over to Facebook, by the way. Like our Facebook fan page, which is JimmyChurchRadio.com. Go like us. We keep everything updated over there. If you've got anything you need to say, you can certainly do it there. Anything interesting, you can post it. I will certainly talk about it. You can also email your thoughts to me personally, and I will get to all of them eventually. I might even write back. You can write me at jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. I try to read them all, and everything has been positive over the last week, and thank you for that. Great feedback on the show. Okay, now, bumper music. I do want to thank Doug Aldrich for that, and we won't be thanking him too much in the future, but it's exciting to hear Doug's music here on the show. Okay, I want to jump into a subject that is near and dear to me, which is time travel, and specifically John Titor. Now, last month, in November, actually, last month was the 13-year anniversary of his appearance on the internet. And for all of us back then, it was an event. Now, a few things have happened like that on the internet, stories that proliferated on the internet. A few stories have happened, and certainly, going way back to the USA Computer hoax, that was an incredible. And for all of you veterans out there, they just went, whoa, Jimmy, nice one. The USA Computer, we've got to visit that story on a future show. But John Titor, the way that he appeared back then, and it was in November of 2000, the way that he appeared back then, I was all over Art Bell's forums back then, and participating and reading, and suddenly this guy shows up. His name was Time Travel _0, starts posting on the internet now on Art Bell's forums, and we thought at the time, everybody, that this was his first appearance, and I'll talk about his actual first appearance in a bit, but it was a fascinating story. And I'm reading. I couldn't wait to sign on and get over to the forums to see what was happening next with John Titor. Okay, so for everybody out there that this story is new to you, John Titor claimed that he was a time traveler from the year 2036. And he was back now, well, then. We're talking about time travel. Now is now, then is then. In 2000, he was doing a drive-by, and he stuck around for around 4 months and then disappeared. He has never been heard from since. And this is the thing for me, well, for everybody that knows about the John Titor story. If it was a hoax, and it's possible that it was, if it was a hoax, it has never been disproven or proven. Nobody has ever found out in all of the investigations who John Titor was or who the hoaxer was. And that is the part of the story that, the credibility issue, I mean, it's time travel and it is out there. I get that. But normally you can uncover something and then it's all blown out of the water and it's, it was just a hoax. Okay, cool. All right, we get it. But it has never been uncovered. The story just has lingered and lingered and lingered on the internet. For those of you that are new, you can Google John Titor and have literally thousands, if not maybe 100,000 responses and areas to go to. There are plenty of videos on YouTube on the subject. But the thing is, with John Titor and this story, is that it seems to be true. I want it to be true. He freely, this all started in, like I said, November 2000. And he was posting publicly, and he posted pictures. And he also, pictures. And he also answered questions. And from my memory, I think he answered everything that was thrown at him. Some of the questions he would answer 2 or 3 different times. People would ask the same questions over and over. And some questions he refused to answer. And of course, if you think about it, and you've got an opportunity to speak to a time traveler and ask him a question, the first thing you're going to do is, what stocks do I buy? Who won the World Series in blah, blah, blah. And those were the questions that he refused to answer, understandably so. But, and it reminds me of Back to the Future, but that's another story. But, and then he said he had to leave. And and it was one of those things where, for me personally, it was like, no, don't go. It was a 4-month journey for all of us on the internet with Titor at that time. And then, poof, gone. Now, supposedly, there is a John Titor exiting this time video. There's been rumors about that forever. Now, certainly if the video is out there, I think somebody would have posted it by now somewhere. But if anybody knows of where this video is, if there's access to it, my email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. I'll keep your name in confidence. But if anybody knows of that video out there, I would certainly like to see it. So anyway, then March 21st, 2001 was his last post, and then suddenly he's vanished. And the investigation started, and it continues to this day. There is a series of videos on YouTube. I think it's called Searching or Looking for John Titor. Multiple episodes of this crew of guys in Florida that go out and chase down the attorney's brother, I think the attorney's son. And we'll get to that in a second. That occurred. There's been a play made. There's a video, a movie, a serious B movie on the internet as well. I thought that, and I think there still is something in development, like a major motion picture. And the story is so compelling that I'd almost love to be involved and write a screenplay on that, because the story is absolutely amazing. Now, although the entire story can be just written off as a hoax, there is something there about the story that grabs us all. His details about the life in the future and the predictions that he made, and not only that, but what day-to-day life is like in the future. His reasons for not only coming back to the year 2000, but what his journey was back into the 70s, and the reason why he was time traveling, that he was a member of the Army. There's all of those details, but the predictions that he made, some came true, absolutely did. Some of them were completely wrong. But the thing is he had his out in his story, about he's in a parallel time. And so what happens in our time and what occurs when he time travels are two different things, and one doesn't affect the other. So even though he may say something is going to happen or did happen, it's in another time, another timeline. So that was his out. And in reality, when you go back and look at it, it makes sense. And not only that, for me, it was the pictures that he posted and his time machine. Now, I haven't built a time machine, haven't seen a time machine. I have no idea. But what he posted, not only did he post pictures of the time machine, but he posted the manual and some of the schematics. And when you look at the photographs and you look at them up close, the level of detail is extraordinary. And this is the thing. If it was a hoax and that time machine was built, even let's just say it's a hoax. Okay, let's just go with that for now. The level of detail on that and the way that it was built, and I'm talking about switches and buttons and cabling and labeling and lettering and labels, all of that, the amount of work that went into that, and then you tie that into the manual and the amount of work and detail that goes into that, and the people that would have to be exposed to this. It wouldn't just be, a one-man operation. You would have to have artists involved to create the manual. You would have to have a technical writer involved to write that. You would have to have an engineer and a model builder to build this time machine. And his description on how the time machine actually ran made sense. It made so much sense that somebody went and tried to patent it. Actually applied for a patent on John Titor's time machine. The entire story. So somebody who was involved in this, and I would venture to guess, and if somebody involved with the hoax is listening to me right now, is going to go, well, yeah, he's right. In that, there would have to have been dozens of people involved with this story. And somebody's cover would have been blown. And to this day, it hasn't. There has been no artwork or ideas or designs or sketches. Nothing has surfaced anywhere. And that is what makes the story so crazy. I mean, it's too easy to write off. It truly is, because the subject matter alone, right there, you just go, done. Nah, not true. Hoax. Good story, but it's a hoax. But when you start to add all of these other things together, you come up with, maybe this thing is a true story. Maybe there's something to this. And that's what draws you in. Now, there'll be a video of this radio show. We post everything. And so when we do the video, I will include in the video the photographs of everything that I'm talking about. And then you'll understand. Okay, so we'll get that tie in there. But you have to remember that back in 2000, when these videos start popping up on the net, you take one look and you're like, no way. This is real. This does look like some type of Army issue equipment. And then you look at the manual and the manual and the schematics, and everything matches. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing incorrect. And I was looking for something incorrect. And the longer that I read, the longer that I looked and I rechecked and checked, I got sucked in. I really did. And to this day, I would just love for either Titor to come back. That would be paramount. Or the second thing is somebody to get busted. Please. We all need that. The story has just continued to this day. And it's not going to go away until one of two things happen. Somebody gets busted, or Titor comes back and says, okay, I got a couple of updates for you. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on KJCR and the Dark Matter Radio Network. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will. On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
He's always giving it to you straight.
JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
This is Kristen, Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We're on KJCR and the Dark Matter Radio Network. Don't forget, you can email me right now to Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com. I do read them all, and I just might write back. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow. Everything is right there. Go over to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Check it out. Spend some time there. Go check out that Sphinx Giza Pyramid flyby application that is there. And don't forget, by the way, do turn off the music. After the show, if you want to spend some more time on it, listen to the music. But I don't want you to miss a word of what I'm talking about right now, which is John Titor. John Titor, a time traveler from 2036, first showed up in November of 2000 on the internet and started posting. He hung around in our timeline for about 4 months and then suddenly vanished and disappeared, and nobody's heard from him since. And I remember listening to a couple of Art Bell's old shows, and where he would say, okay, if John Titor's listening, give us a call. Well, John, if you're listening, shoot me an email, give me a call. Call me on Skype right now. Fade to Black 14. Would love to hear from you. But so he hung around for about 4 months and then suddenly disappeared. And there was a video, a purported video, that shows him leaving us and going back to where he came from. Now, his mission was to get a computer from the 1970s, because this specific computer, we'll get to that, the details of that entire story here in a few, but would help solve some programming issues in 2036. So he had to go back and get this computer. Now, the story behind the computer, we're going to get to that because there's a lot of details with it, who and what knew what it was, and a lot of stuff has come out. So we'll address that in a second. But what I wanted to get to now is his original set of posts and predictions that started in November 2000. Now, he did a solid 4 months of this. But in November 2000, a few things happened right away. And I remember reading it. Now, a lot of this has to... let me get to the first one. And this is what he wrote. He said, I was just about to give up. This is November 2nd, 2001. He says, I was just about to give up hope on anyone knowing who Tipler or Kerr was on this world line. The basics for time travel start at CERN, C-E-R-N. Everybody knows about CERN in Switzerland. In about a year, and end in 2034 with the first time machine built by GE. Too bad we can't post pictures, or I'd show it to you. Now, on the surface, there's a couple of things in this post. Okay, first thing he says, too bad we can't post pictures. Because I remember reading that, thinking, what does he mean? We all can post pictures on the net. So either he's new to the internet, our version of the internet, doesn't know how to post pictures, Number 2, doesn't have a camera. Or 3, doesn't have pictures of the specific time machine from 2034. I'm not too sure what he meant there, but it was a weird line to type. And for somebody to have in the vision of a hoax to type something like that, in that type of verbiage, is either genius or somebody doesn't know what they're doing. There's no gray area in the middle here. But that right there, that line grabbed me from day one. But it was the other part about CERN. CERN at the time, there was some basic information coming out about CERN and its possibilities, and with some of the experiments that they were planning. There was some of it there, but basically it wasn't common knowledge about CERN with anybody unless you were within the inner circle there. But this is the curious thing that happened, and he talks about this in later posts, which I'll get to, was about miniature black holes being created at CERN that would open up the door to time travel. Now, the thing is that actually happened. Now, does that mean he's a time traveler? No. Everybody knows that CERN was coming online, and these were some of the possibilities. But unless you were, and we know that now, but unless you were part of the inner workings at CERN, you probably didn't know anything about it. And now, if you were a scientist not working at CERN, and you were into physics or what have you, then you may dream about the possibilities of CERN and would be able to put that into a post and have it make sense. But I don't think that John Titor, the hoaxer, came from that level of intelligence and would be able to put that in a post like that where it made sense and that it actually came true. That was one of the most intriguing posts that he had ever done. Okay, then he goes on, the same day he posts, is there a site where I don't need to register personal information to post pictures? Again, what kind of question is that to ask? Now, unless you're a genius and you know that you need to write in this fashion, I just don't see somebody having that type of... If you're hoaxing, you're just not that smart. Or you've got 50 people working behind you posting this stuff, and nobody has been exposed. You have to understand the way that I look at it. Now, certainly I do want the story to be true. Yes, okay, all right. Am I a skeptic on this? Sort of. And the only reason why I say sort of is because it's been 13 years, and nobody has been busted yet. And that's the part, for me, that grabs me. You know, I search all the time. I just jump in every couple of weeks and I'll Google John Titor to see if there's anything new or anything breaking or any news or somebody busted or just anything out there. So I've always tried to stay on top of it. Nothing has happened. Okay, so later, November 2nd, he posts, I'll be happy to send them to you and answer any questions you may have. Wow. Really? Okay, so now on November 2nd, he answers somebody. And it says, I saw the post in requesting basic systems for gravity distortions, for a gravity distortion system that will allow time travel. Here is what they are. Number 1, a magnetic housing units for dual, you ready? Microsingularities. Number 2, electron injection manifold to alter the mass and gravity of microsingularities. 3, cooling and X-ray venting system. 4, gravity sensors, a VGL system. I'm going to get to that right after this. 5, main clocks, 4 cesium units. And number 6, main computer units, of which there are 3. Now, this is the thing. Time travel, going back to H.G. Wells and science fiction and the way it's been written and dreamed about, there's some major problems with it. And I'm not talking about the grandfather paradox. That's nothing, and that's simple. But one of the problems with time travel, and if you, like I said, going back to H.G. Wells and any movie that you can think of, anybody that's traveling in time, there's one thing that is a big problem. And if you've never thought about it, I'm going to lay it out to you right now. So just listen. Get really close to your speaker and listen to what I'm saying. If you're on this earth and you're moving in time, the earth is still in orbit. It's moving around the sun. So although you may vanish, poof, and go somewhere, that doesn't mean that when you get to where you're going, you're landing back on planet Earth, because the earth is moved. Think about that for a second. If you're a time traveler, the last thing that you want is to go and spin the dial and pick a date and vanish and poof and then wind up in space somewhere in a vacuum without a spacesuit, dead. Think about that. And that's what this addresses, this last post. And it is something that up until Titor's posting in 2000, all the science fiction writers and everything out there, nobody's addressed this. Nobody's talked about it. And it's addressed here. Now, so now, today, when discussing time travel, believe it or not, and I believe because of what Titor posted, scientists now have to forcefully address that. And not only that, the writers that are writing in books and movies and so forth, if you're going to consider this. But at that time, it was an original thought that was put down in this post. Now, he says that is one of the problems with time travel that we had to fix in the future. We could time travel, but we couldn't land our feet where we needed our feet to land. But once we got that fixed, all bets were off. And that's what allowed time travel. Now, again, if all of this is a hoax, somebody very smart and probably a few brains had to be applied into this kind of thinking. And again, and I'm going to run this in the ground on this program tonight. For 13 years, nothing has really been shot down in this story, and nobody has been caught. Nobody. And if with everybody out there that would have to have been involved in this hoax, somebody would have been caught. Certainly somebody writing something like this. And it hasn't happened. But John Titor says in 2036, they fixed the gravity and time delays. The gravity sensors and the main clocks that allowed the time traveler to actually end up where he needed to be, his foot on terra firma, and not out in the vacuum of space, being sucked away somewhere. And if you think about the implications of that, how many hapless guinea pigs were out there in the year 2036, 2035, 2034, going into the GE plant over General Electric's, and would have to test out this time machine, and how many times they had to go, well, okay, that didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work. But apparently they got it worked out. And it's an amazing thought. Then, November 4th, he posts this gem. He responds to a question, and the question is this: what does time traveling look like? Okay? Think about this for a second. And this is his response. And again, I'm quoting here. The unit has a ramp-up time after the destination coordinates are fed into the computers. An audible alarm and small lights start a short countdown, at which point you should be secured in a seat. The gravity field generated by the unit overtakes you very quickly. You feel a tug toward the unit similar to rising quickly in an elevator, and it continues to rise based on the power setting the unit is working under. At 100% power, the constant pull of gravity can be as high as 2 Gs or more, depending on how close you are to the unit. There are no serious side effects, but I try to avoid eating before a flight. He continues, no bright flash of light is seen. Outside, the vehicle appears to accelerate as the light is bent around it. We have to wear sunglasses or close our eyes as this happens due to a short burst of ultraviolet radiation. Personally, I think it looks like you're driving under a rainbow. After that, it appears to fade to black. You like that, don't you? And it remains totally black until the unit is turned off. We are advised to keep the windows closed as a great deal of heat builds up outside of the car. The gravity field also traps a small air pocket around the car that acts as your only oxygen supply unless you bring compressed air with you. This pocket will only last for a short period, and the carbon sensor tells us when it is too dangerous. The C204 unit is accurate from 50 to 60 years a jump and travels at about 10 years an hour at 100% power. You do hear a slight hum as the unit operates, and when the power changes or the unit turns off, there is a great deal of electrical crackling noise from static electricity. End quote. What a gem. Well written. And again, for all of those sci-fi writers out there, up until this time, nobody looked at time traveling like this ever. The description, for me, back then, was, and I hate to use the word compelling, but it sucked me in. It really did. But at the time, this was the thing. I was waiting for some genius, I'm not quite smart enough, to get on one of these forum threads and just chop this guy to shreds and get this over with. There was just no way. I needed somebody. I think we were all doing it, by the way. All of us that were reading back then were posting questions to hopefully cause him to stumble. I think all of that was the intention of the questions. Well, maybe some of them were genuine. I suppose, most of us wanted to believe, but we were also expecting the inevitable, which was somebody was going to come in and bust this guy. Maybe an ex-girlfriend was going to post, hey, man, this guy, a friend of his, something that was going to happen. He was going to trip up somewhere and just say the wrong thing at the wrong time, and then his cover is blown, and it's over with. And quite honestly, that just never happened. So back to the 5100 computer, which was built by IBM. And John stated that his mission was to go from 2036 back to 1975. And if I get any of the facts wrong or anything, and anybody wants to bust my chops on this, I'm talking live on the radio right now. Have at it, by the way. His mission was to go from 2036 back to 1975 and recover an IBM 5100 computer. Now, when I started to read this back then, I thought, aha! Now, this is a situation where he can't fabricate anything. This has got to keep his story straight. I actually thought at the time that if somebody was going to bust him, it was going to be about this 5100. And later on, as years passed from 2000 when he left, as the years passed, some information has come out about this, and I'll visit that in a second. But he said that the 5100 computer had the ability to read mainframe computers and their languages. Now, what's he referring to when he says that? Today we're used to laptops and tablets and what have you. There's still some towers being sold somewhere. But in the 60s, and 70s, IBM built these monstrosities that you've seen in the movies. These huge things the size of refrigerators with the big tape drives on them and whatnot. And I worked at Bell Laboratories in the early 1980s. And I'll never forget, we had this main computer room on the first floor of one of the buildings that handled all of the computing systems. Any computer that you saw on somebody's desk was just a monitor. Everything was tied into these computers downstairs, these huge things, and people running around in lab coats. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? So the computers in 2036 had some issues, and they needed to get a 5100 IBM, which at that time in 1975, the 5100 was like one of the first personal computers. It's a little desktop, little cruiser thing with a built-in monitor. And again, if you're watching this as a video, you're probably looking at a picture of it right now. But anyway, that this computer had the ability to plug into a mainframe and access its code. And they needed to do that in the future. For whatever reason, that doesn't matter. But the fact that he stated something specific, that this 5100 had the ability to read mainframe computers, was a piece of information that could be checked out. And guess what? The internet did. And people did. And we found out that, yes, indeed, a small core of engineers, a handful of guys at IBM, confirmed this. And they were the ones that knew that. Absolutely, it could do this. It had some kind of, I can't remember, 360 emulator circuit, whatever. And allowed, the ROM to be read. But it was something that all of us could go, aha, maybe he's telling the truth about this. But he had also said in his post something else that I think all of us found interesting, which was this. It was a relative of his that worked on the original 5100. Now, I thought to myself, there's the smoking gun in this hoax. He leads us on this 5100 path, and everybody confirms it. But then in reality, if you look at this and you start to peel back the layers a little bit, did he slip up for the first time? In that, did this hoaxer have a relative that gave him or gave the team of hoaxers this information about the 5100 and inserted this into the story because they were the ones that knew about it? Possibility, strong possibility. And as it turns out, I'll get to that. I don't want to get too sideways in the story, but as it turns out, today, in the now, some John Titor investigators out there have found that the lawyer that represents John Titor's family owns a company called the John Titor Foundation. We'll get into that too as well. But he's got relatives and his son that are computer nerds. And possibly could this information have come from them? It's like the one little hole in the story. There's half of it that makes sense and it's a total genius. And then there's the other half of it where it's just a big aha moment. Okay, with that, I'm going to take a break. This is KJCR, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. We are on the Dark Matter Radio Network, and I hope you're having a great Friday. 2 days after Christmas. All right, Doug, take us out. I'll be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Hey, this is Alan Johannes from the Vultures and Queens of the Stone Age. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Rock on.
All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Fade to Black. You're listening to KJCR and the Dark Matter Radio Network. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I feel like one of those late night radio guys. I really do. And I hope you're having a wonderful Friday. Email me to jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Tell me what you think about John Titor. It's an amazing story. Spend some time this week, if it's a new story to you, John Titor. Spend some time this week doing a little bit of reading. Send me some email, post, tweet. You know what to do. You can follow us. You can subscribe to us. You can certainly like us. All right. Talking about John Titor. And if you're just coming in now, telling the story about a time traveler from 2036. His name was John Titor. Time travel _0 is what he had used for a bunch of forums, originally, oddly enough, tied to Art Bell in the year 2000. Now, all of the posts that he had done, and I'm not going to read, it would take literally 2 weeks of shows to read everything that he had posted. But all of the original posts took place pre-9/11. Okay, those events hadn't happened yet. So if you think about it in those terms, the world, certainly the United States, but the world changed radically shortly after that. But, okay, so he says that he's from the year 2036, and he had to go back to 1975, which I'm going to talk about right now. And he was on his way back to 2036 when he decided to stop by the year 2000, do a little drive-by, and hang out with his family. Do a little visit. And not only that, check this out, to visit himself. Little John Titor. Mini Titor. Yeah. And the thing is about the story and all of the posts and everything that had gone down at that time, nobody shot any holes in it. Nobody was able to really pick it apart. His story, if it was a hoax, his story was so well put together that nobody could. And we're still trying. Okay, so now, picking up where I left off before the break, we're talking about the 5100 computer that he went back to go and get. Now, check this out. And I have been saying, and you have to understand and get your head around exactly what I'm trying to say to you, which is he answered just about every question that was thrown at him. And some of it was fairly quick in response. And also, I meant to say this earlier, but for somebody from 2036, it didn't seem like he was too versed in computers. But in the way that, at least in the way that they ran in the year 2000. I don't know what it was like in 2036, but sometimes he seemed a little juvenile when it came to computing. And he also insisted that he wasn't a physicist and he wasn't a scientist. He's just a soldier in an army from the future that was sent on a mission. And he would try. The other thing that was fascinating that, he believed in Jesus. Okay, so anyway, before I get sideways, here's a question that was thrown at him. Why did you go back to 1975? Simple enough question, isn't it? He says, and I quote, "The first leg of my trip was from 2036 to 1975. After 2 VGL checks, the divergence was estimated at about 2.5% from my 2036 time. I was sent to get an IBM computer system called the 5100. It was one of the first portable computers made, and it has the ability to read older IBM programming languages in addition to APL and BASIC. We need the system to debug various legacy computer programs in 2036. Unix has a problem in 2038. On my world line, it is known that the 5100 series is capable of reading all of the IBM code written before the widespread use of APL and BASIC. Unfortunately, there are none left that anyone can find on my world line. Technologies themselves are not lost, but some of the older tools and techniques have been lost. I think there was more detailed information about the war posted earlier. When I leave, I will return to 2036. The computer I have is expected there. End of post. Now, if you're going to tell a lie, if you're going to make something up, you can't come up with these kind of details. You just can't do it. And everybody out there, everybody has lied. The Pope has lied. Everybody has lied at least once. And whether it is something simple like, hey, have you ever stolen a pen? Ever taken a pen from your place of employment? No, I haven't. That's a lie. Everybody's taken a pen from work. It's not right, but everybody has. And so if you're going to turn around and have to be forced into making something up, whether you're talking to the police or your mom, you just wrecked the car and you got to concoct some story, whatever it is, you're going to stay basic. You're going to say, keep it simple. You have to. You just have to. I've said it on this show many, many times. The truth is in the details. The truth is in the details. And if you are telling the truth, you can literally get down to the most minute detail of anything that you are trying to explain. From the car that is passing to your left, to the clothes that you have on, to what the person is wearing to your right. Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? Are you cold? Are you warm? How much money is in your pocket? Whatever detail you need for that moment, that because it's the truth, you can immediately grab. So when John Titor is posting these kind of details in his post, that's what causes everybody to pause for a second and think to themselves, hey, you know what? This guy, it reads as truth. I mean, it just reads fluidly. It doesn't feel made up. But of course, it's a hoax. It has to be made up, right? What did I just say? If you're going to lie, if you're going to hoax, you don't have these kind of details. And this is just a paragraph that I just read you. There are photographs and manuals and details of just down. It is crazy how detailed this hoax is and how far somebody was willing to go to either hoax or, if it's true, then it's all simple. Check out this post. Again, I just find this so interesting. Question. Earlier, you said something was wrong with the Unix computer code on your world line. What's wrong with it? His answer, quote, yes, and with yours too. I have to believe there must be a Unix expert out there someplace that can confirm that. I'm not exactly sure what the technical issue is, but I believe some sort of Unix system registry stops in 2038. End quote. End of post. Now, going back to what I had just said, if you're going to lie, you just don't have details. And in this little paragraph that I've just read you, it's very short, but it's very telling. He doesn't give an answer here. And if, like I said, if somebody is behind him, if there's some team of writers behind him telling him what to, or writing these posts intelligently, then why isn't there an answer here? Because this is one of the easiest things to answer, isn't it? But his answer says, well, there's got to be a Unix expert out there. And you know what? There are. And there was. And they checked it out. And that's the crazy thing. If there is, think about what I'm saying. If there is a computer expert in this little hoax team of Titor, Team Titor, then this question is answered because they want to stay factual and they want to convince us all that this is real. But instead, it's a vague answer. It's an answer coming from somebody that, I'm sorry, but is telling the truth. And this is what I firmly believe. I want it to be true. Oh, I do. And before you think, okay, Jimmy, all right, Jimmy, you're nuts. It's been 13 years. Now, I'm waiting. Oh, absolutely. I'm waiting for somebody to come forward and just rip the covers off of this and go, aha, all right, we've all been had. Because then, you know what? Great. You know what? It's a great story. It will make a great movie. Awesome. But it hasn't happened yet. And that's why you're listening to Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. KJCR on the Dark Matter Radio Network. We are live from the JP Motorsports Studios right here in Burbank, California. More about John Titor when we come back. One more segment, then I'm out of here. Back right after this.
And you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will. On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming in tonight. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. KJCR on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Just love saying that. Rolls off the tongue. Dark Matter Radio Network. All right. Shoot me an email, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Get her done. Get over to the website. Spend some time there. We've also, on the website, before I get back to John Titor, on the website, we've got some pretty cool little Easter eggs stashed on all of the pages. And if you go around and you find them, okay, great, cool. Some of it's funny, some of it's cool, but you got to do the work. You got to go to the website and check it out. And if you do figure some of them out, there's only one way out of it, and I will find out. And it'll be really cool. And I'll respond to everybody that figures it out. Okay? All right, so now, moving on, John Titor. How does the John Titor saga end? Well, so far it hasn't. It's continued on for 13 years. But with all of the investigations that have, and are ongoing, by the way, and certainly my own, I mentioned earlier a series of videos on YouTube, and you can go check this out. And there's stuff on Wikipedia, too, as well, and there's plenty of websites that you can go to, and you can also a good resource for material is johntitor.com. And Oliver Williams, if you're listening, I've been trying to chase you down. Oliver, we've got to get you on the show so we can have an official The Return of John Titor episode. All right, so how did it end? Well, an Italian TV show, and it was called Voyager. And I still remember when this went down. Aired a special on John Titor, and it happened, and I'm going to guess now, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years ago. and there was a private detective that was involved, and they are going through. First off, they're trying to find any sources of the Titor family, the Titor name, which you should do on your own. Go and check that out. That's pretty interesting. But also the John Titor Foundation. Now, there was an address that was dug up, and it was to a post office box in Kissimmee, Florida. And again, there's a whole video series on the net where you can check this out, where they actually go to, I think two post office boxes, and they chase this down, and they go to some offices that are empty when they get there, but had supposedly belonged to, and I think they did, not supposedly, belong to Larry Haber, who is the attorney of the Titor family, or so he says, and that he represents John Titor's mom. And if you go back and listen to some of the old episodes of Coast to Coast, which I invite you to do, with Larry Haber's got John Titor's mom on the other line and does this whole translation thing with his mom, with John Titor's mom. And again, well done if it's all an act. But anyway, Larry Haber, as it turns out, is the CEO of a foundation with John Titor's name on it. Now, Larry Haber, of all things, turns out to be an entertainment lawyer. Now, this is where everybody should just go, wait, what? An entertainment attorney representing the family? Why is that? Well, he's got a whole story on how he got involved and how he was brought into this. Okay, all right. And I'm not saying anything bad about Larry Haber, the attorney, because by all standards, he's not only a legit attorney, he's a good attorney. And everybody speaks well and highly about. He's got no shady past to him. I just find it curious that in a situation like this, why is the family hiring an entertainment lawyer unless there's something else to it? Not anything dark, but maybe he's a friend of a friend. I mean, he's got his own story. I'm just speculating here. But maybe he's a friend of a friend. Maybe he was referred. Maybe he's working pro bono. Maybe the Titor family's broke. Maybe they didn't have a choice. Maybe he approached them. Whatever. But Larry Haber seems, by all accounts, to be a stand-up guy. Except for there's one little problem. His brother, Rick Haber, is a gnarly computer expert. And again, I've just talked about this for, better part, maybe an hour and a half. And I've already told you, I'm not really a skeptic on this. I'm playing the role of skeptic, but I want to believe. And when you put this part of an ending to the story, not an ending, but where we are standing today to the story, it causes some issues. But if he's an entertainment attorney, and you've got a sensational story like this right there in your pocket, it would seem like any movie studio in Hollywood would be chomping at the bit to get this story, because it would make a sensational movie. There's no question about it. It's got everything in there. And the thing is, even though if you're going to write, and you're a Hollywood script writer, and you're going to write a screenplay, and you're going to create something like this out of your own imagination, kudos. I mean, that would be an achievement. But the thing is, you wouldn't be making it up, because this story is true. This story actually happened. The post actually occurred on the net. Art Bell did receive the original faxes in 1978. All the forum stuff has been preserved. Everything has been archived. The photographs are real. Well, they're real pics, I should say. All of that is real. So it would seem like a Hollywood production company would be all over this. And if you're Larry Haber, that's the easiest thing to negotiate, I would think. So why hasn't it happened? The B movie that is out there, and it's bad. It's B. It's C. It's D. Sue me. Is awful. So Larry Haber, if he has intended to make some money off of this, I would have thought that there would be something moving forward in a very grand scale, and that hasn't happened. So it's just a very funny twist, which again, in its own weird way, adds the element of truth back into the story. It's an amazing story. I tell you what, I've got to get out of here. Next week is New Year's. Everybody have a great New Year's and have a great safe weekend this weekend. Next Thursday, John Anthony West here in the studio. Well, not here in the studio. He's in New York. But we'll be coming in via Skype, and I'm going to try to get his video feed live somehow. We're going to figure out a way to get that done. He wants to do video, and as well as, and he's insisting, by the way, on doing the entire 3 hours. And I have the feeling, talking to John this week, that I only have to ask 1 or 2 questions, and then I just kick back, and the 3 hours are his. But do enjoy it. That'll be next Thursday. I know that I said last night that he would be on Wednesday. I did that in error, forgetting that what's the next. Okay, so everybody out there, have a great, safe weekend. We'll see you next week. The show is produced by, executive producer is Rita Kamurian, produced by Hilton J. Paul. Music is by Doug Aldrich. The announcer is Steve Harder. And I am your host, Jimmy Church. See you.